I want to be cute. That's my number one, like, make him sound cute. And there's moments he has other sort of things in his personality where he's being kind of a pest, or he's being a little confident, and so you play into that. Maybe you get a little harder, or you shuffle more. But doing his feet was just a blast. And I've got some 1980s ski gloves, which I use to give him kind of a soft patty feel, but also a little weight to it, even though he's tiny.
Welcome to the latest episode of Zebra Spotlight. I'm absolutely delighted to be speaking with Sean England, who is a Foley artist. And I got super excited when I came across your profile, Sean, when you'd worked on The Mandalorian and Grogu. Really enjoyed the movies, and you've worked on Mandalorian amongst a whole plethora of TV and movies throughout movie history. You look far too young, I've got to say, when I look at the accolades, and you've won awards, you've been nominated for so many others. Sean, please introduce yourself to the audience.
My name is Sean England. I am a Foley artist at Skywalker Sound. And for the record, I started in the business when I was 21 years old. So I've been, pushing 34 years at Skywalker, the last 20 as a Foley artist. And I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Fantastic. And I've got to send a big shout out to Skywalker Sound for actually releasing you. Because it's so rare to get an interview from anyone in the inner sanctum. So we really appreciate it. So just before you explain to the audience what the secret dark art of Foley is, how did you get into this whole thing in the first place?
Well, I grew up in Marin County, California, just north of San Francisco, and my parents worked in the film business, and my dad worked in the music business. So I was obviously immersed in sort of that world. A lot of their friends worked in those businesses, and Lucasfilm is based out of Marin County. So I was in the right place at the right time as far as just exposure to film and music and culture in general. And ironically, I wasn't interested in working in the film business per se, even though my parents did that. I loved music more. I mean, I love films, but music was really my passion. And when I was a kid, I started playing drums, and played in bands, and basically wanted to get a job so I could afford to be a musician, that sort of thing. I eventually started working for a home theater company called the Media Room. This would have been in '91, for a guy named Jack Leahy. And Jack he'd been a big part of the San Francisco music and film scene. He had a well-known studio called Russian Hill Recording that tons of music and film came through there. And I spent a lot of time with Jack working at the Media Room. And I'd known him since I was a kid. And he was just a big influence. We would just talk a lot about stuff. And at one point, his wife at the time, Susan, she was working for Skywalker Sound, and she suggested I interview for an audio tech position, which is how I ended up getting into Skywalker. And I spent a good decade as an audio technician working in the audio transfer department, the machine rooms, and even in Foley as a recordist. And that was kind of my film school. So it was through that I ultimately chose this path in Foley. I looked at the editorial side. I looked at the mixing side. I enjoyed the technical side. I had aptitude towards that. And eventually, I became a Foley recordist, sort of full time. This would have been early 2000s, and then did a brief stint as a Foley mixer before I made the choice to kind of jump to the other side of the glass, as I say, and learn this trade of Foley.
And before we got on to that, you mentioned that you were a machine recordist, or working in the machine room. Just explain to the audience
Yeah.
what that entails.
Well, so in 1993, when I started at Skywalker, there was very little digital material, digital formats. There were a few things, but nothing like Pro Tools. No workstations were really in the mix at that time. So everything was being recorded on and edited on 35 millimeter film stock. And my first gig as a machine room operator was in the transfer department, where literally you're transferring from all sorts of different sources, from quarter-inch tape, which would be production dialogue, maybe 24 track 2-inch tape, which would be Foley, and we'd have to transfer it to 35 millimeter so the editors could cut it. And from there, we would transfer other types of things, other elements. And the neat thing about that job is every film came through the transfer department. Everybody that worked at Skywalker came through the transfer department. So I got to know everybody and kind of get what they did. And then I started working on the mix stages where you were lining the recorders, basically, the film projector, patching audio, dealing with the mix consoles, again, in a technical support capacity. And, I got to sit in the mix and listen to how films came together, what they sounded like, watch the interactions with clients, with directors and mixers, and just, get a lot of exposure through that world.
Wow. And many people know Skywalker Sound is one of the sort of foundations, sort of gold standard within the Hollywood film industry. So many incredible films have been mixed there. Top Gun Maverick, F1. The list goes on and on. And the what people get to know re-recording mixers and people who work in ADR. But what's you mentioned earlier on the art of Foley, or the secret art of Foley, the stuff that no one really gets to see, but makes such a huge difference between believing, really believing in the story and bringing things to life. Just explain to the audience exactly what it is and how that sort of enhances the immersion of the film.
Sure. Well, Foley, in many ways, it is, we're performing. We're not just creating sounds, but we are watching the picture and we are acting out those elements sonically. Really, people talk about the sounds, but we're really trying to tell the story. And Foley's broken up into a couple different elements. One of the most important and hardest to do and most highly scrutinized is doing footsteps, which seems like it would be a natural thing to do. It's far from it. I felt it took me a decade to feel like I was getting good at feet. It's tough, and you're picking out a shoe, you're picking out a surface, you're assessing where the mic should be placed so it fits what's going on screen, and ultimately you're trying to be that actor in that moment with the feet. Some people walk very confidently, some people shuffle. Is someone sad? Are they excited? So you have to try to convey that. And, you don't want feet to sound robotic or overly manipulated. I want to be very natural. I don't want you to think about the fact that someone else performed those feet. And then the other side of Foley is props, which, for the most part, it's anything a human's interacting with. It goes beyond that because obviously we have things like creatures and droids, and we are asked to do abstract design sounds. Before there was sound designers, a lot of that was done on Foley stages, because it's a controlled environment where people could experiment with sounds. So, the thing with Foley is, again, just trying to bring what's on screen to life, trying to ground it, trying to, attach it to that moment. And, again, with the story being, the most important thing.
I guess people don't really think of it because they're obviously immersed in the film, watching the film. But you're just to give examples, a lady walking in stilettos in a hallway, or someone jumping around a basketball court in a gym, to RoboCop, walking around
Right.
Detroit, to the Mandalorian getting off his ship. That they're all people walking, but they're going to all sound incredibly different, and I guess that is challenging.
Well, and the need for Foley, a lot of times, if you're working on a live action film that's shot in real locations and high quality sets, and they get good production recording, that stands up. That's quality sound that we try to replicate, match, enhance, so you don't really realize that a human is doing it. But then you get to things that are more stylized, whether it be a Mandalorian or a Marvel thing. And sometimes those are shot on stages that are plywood floors, so they can't use a lot of that. They're wearing masks, so they maybe don't use the dialogue and have to replace it. And then, of course, animation. These are all areas where Foley, is even more important. When we do a traditional film that again has great production sound, our job is to try to just blend in. When I hear a sound back I've recorded against the production and I can't tell where my sound starts and theirs ends, we've definitely achieved greatness. And that's kind of our roadmap when you have to do animation or something where you're creating droids or these other worlds that don't exist. It's a lot more subjective what we do, but again, I want you to watch this and not, I don't want you to think about it. I don't want to think about it. People ask me about watching films and, oh, was the sound good? And I'm like, or was the Foley good? And like, well, I didn't really pay attention to it. I was so drawn into the story.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that's what I'm trying to achieve.
And I mean, there's so many elements to it in terms of telling the story. What are the things that you find most challenging, or what are some of the projects you've worked on where you thought, how on earth are we going to achieve this, and somehow you had to bring some lateral thinking, or experiment on stuff you'd never done to bring that to life?
Well, a lot of that comes with experience and building confidence. Early on, there was definitely things that would be stressful and challenging. And early on, footsteps stressed me out, because I just knew how important, how scrutinized they were. I was always really good at props. Most people kind of get the prop thing sooner than they get the footsteps. And as a drummer and a musician, I have a good sense of kind of creating rhythm and dynamics and patterns. Um, and you never know what's going to hang you up and what's going to be the hard things. Sometimes it's something very straightforward. Sometimes even like doing a dining scene with forks and knives and eating, drinking can be oddly challenging. Doing sips of a beverage, it's the weirdest thing to do. You end up choking half the time. And you get in your head about it. It's very weird. So, but as I've gotten, more experience and more confident, very few things daunt me. I just accept the challenge of them. And one thing that helps is I work with another Foley artist. And so we can play off of each other and play to one's strengths and weaknesses, but also, inspired. And of course, our mixer is a huge part of the process. People don't talk enough about the mixer in Foley, but the mixer in Foley can make or break the session, not just the sounds, but giving us direction, giving us context. So it's really a collaborative thing. So sometimes, if we get stuck a little bit on a sound, um, it kind of just comes to us these days.
Now, excuse the pun, but walk me through the whole footstep thing. So I had in my mind, I'm sure I've seen pictures of people sort of putting the shoes on with the hands and doing sort of steps, or actually walking with the feet. But like, how do you do it?
Well, it's all about the picture, right? The picture is our ultimate guide. That's what makes Foley Foley. And so you see a man in dress shoes walking on a cement street in New York. You kind of get this idea of what dress shoes might sound like. How gritty is this street? Do we want to mic it close and get a lot of weight and detail? Do we want to put the mic further away and get more of the space and the air on the mic? And basically, we watch the shot. We work in segments. Sometimes we'll be walking for a couple minutes. Sometimes it's a few seconds. Sometimes we get the whole performance in one take. Sometimes we have to punch in and out a few times. And it's just a matter of, for me, it's a matter of getting out of my head. I'm best at Foley like footsteps in the morning when I'm just settling into that cup of coffee. I'm still a little tired and I'm not thinking about it. I'm just trying to be that character. Again, I want to be natural. I don't want to overly manipulate and affect each step. There's a certain organic thing and randomness that you allow to happen that sometimes is the magic. Um, and you just kind of get into the character. Hopefully we've watched the film ahead of time, we have an idea of the story, we know the characters, and it's just a matter of trying to be that person and bring them to life. And one trapping in Foley is being overly literal, both with your shoe or prop choice, or even your performance. There is an interpretive nature to it. It's sometimes it's kind of a feel thing. I always say it's the art versus the science. I'm always going to lean towards the art. And one thing with Foley that has to be considered is that the sounds we're making have to not only work with what's on screen, but they have to work with other sounds. They have to work with the dialogue. If any sound I'm making interferes with the dialogue, it's not going to work. And same with the music. I've worked on a number of things that, something like Moana 2, where they just bust into song. You have to make sure that whether it's feet or a prop, rhythmically, melodically, etc., fits and complements the music. So a lot of, in general, I like to say it's a feel thing. You know, um, I've watched some things where people have made every single sound and it's done super precisely and with a lot of detail, and it's too much information to take in. You don't want to be distracted by the sounds on screen. And as far as feet go, obviously performing characters, human characters in shoes is what we think of, but with all of these animated things, we often are using our hands. Um, Sometimes, with different gloves, sometimes with props. We do horses, which, we're doing with our hands with different props. Droids, we might have metal items that we're using to kind of create their footsteps. So not all feet are walking, obviously. Yeah.
And congratulations to you and all the team on Mandalorian and Grogu.
Thank you.
As much as fabulous watching it on the big screen, and as a kid growing up playing with those toys, um, I remember that I had an interceptor as a kid, and I wasn't particularly impressed at the time because it wasn't in any of the movies, and I was thinking, what's the point of this boring grey spaceship that nothing ever happens? To see it in the film was just insane. It was wonderful, and to see AT-ATs walking, it was just superb. Um, what were your highlights working on that particular film, either for Grogu or any of the characters?
Sure. Well, I'm a Star Wars kid. I was 5 when Star Wars came out, and I watched them all, and I've worked on various things. So I was very attached to it. I had worked on some of the Mandalorian episodic as well. And in the case of the feature, Ronnie Brown, who's my Foley partner, she performed all of Mandalorian's footsteps. She did all of his armor. She did his spurs, which are a very cool feature that helped give it the Western sort of thing. And because it's the Mandalorian, he's in it a lot. So that kept her pretty busy, which allowed me to take on Grogu for one, which was super fun. Doing his feet, you're not seeing the sort of movement that one would sort of use for sync points. You don't see the shoulders dip like a real person. You definitely don't see a feet.
Hmm.
So to try to create his footsteps, it's again back to it's a feel thing. I want to be cute. That's my number one. Like, make him sound cute. And there's moments he has other sort of things in his personality where he's being kind of a pest, or he's being a little confident, and so you play into that. Maybe you hit a little harder, or you shuffle more. But doing his feet was just a blast. And I've got some 1980s ski gloves, which I use to give him kind of a soft patty feel, but also a little weight to it, even though he's tiny. Um, and he's got a number of scenes where he kind of goes on a side quest
Hmm.
later in the film, and it's sort of like the Grogu moment. And it was so much fun because he's wandering through the forest, so you have a lot of different textures. Goes over some logs, some dirt, a lot of foliage, and there's not a lot of music or anything else being played. So he really lives. And then, he goes and gets a potion made because Mandalorian's down for the count. And that was one of my favorite scenes, was actually making that potion, because again, there's no other sound. The fire's crackling in the background. There's no music. Nobody's talking, and they really featured the Foley But at the same time, when I finally saw it in the theater, it's like I totally buy what's going on. If I didn't I knew what I did. I knew it was Foley, but even at that, I didn't really like. It didn't take me out of it. It drew me into it even more, which is what you hope for. And I got to do. I mean, I did a lot of the droids in that film. I did the Anzellans, um, Embo, the bounty hunter, and I had worked on Clone Wars animated series. So a lot of these characters showed up in Clone Wars that finally made it to the big screen in Mando, and it was fun to see that as well. So I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm not the biggest, most knowledgeable Star Wars person. I didn't read all the books, and there's so much in the canon and side things. But so I'm a fan in the classic way of just reminds me of when I was a child. And I thought the film was fun. It looks amazing. It sounds great, and I was honored to work on it.
Oh, fabulous. And have you met the great George Lucas walking up and down the corridors?
Well, we don't see him much these days, but over the course of 30 something years, absolutely. I worked many nights and weekends where that's when he would mostly make his rounds, and you definitely see him around. Nice guy, says hi, So yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. And I've got to mention some of the other movies you've worked on. That this list goes on and on, but my personal favourites. You worked on Rango, which is an incredible animated film. That the sound effects are just sublime because it's animated. You have to believe what's going on in front of you. It's a western, but it's all animated. But it's so believable. But the sound design of that film is just superb. Avatar, Tron Legacy. That as I said, the list goes on and on. But I'm guessing for animated features, I'm presuming it gets more challenging.
Oh, absolutely. For most of those films you had just mentioned, I was still recording and mixing Foley, which was a great education, for me when I finally got to the other side of the glass to know what amazing Foley sounded like in these different worlds. And those films were done by Jana Vance and Denny Thorpe, who are Foley legends. When I started Skywalker, it was only the two of them, and for many years, it was the two of them, and it was hard to uh, kind of break into that world because you're competing against legends that have years of experience. And one of the things with Foley is in the context of it being a job is making good sounds and have good performances is great, but we have to do it fast. And we had a little more time back in the day. Now I don't know how you cut your teeth as a Foley artist because we have to work so fast. And this last year, I did Zootopia 2, which was so much fun and extremely busy. There's a lot of characters, a lot of different types of characters. They go to this one world that's all wet. So there's seals and fish, and everything's kind of, flopping and smacking around. And, you have to kind of convey that. Um, and you have a sloth, which barely moves, which is probably good for us. But and then like Super Mario, I worked on both of them, but Super Mario 2 is the busiest film I've ever worked on. It starts and does not stop. Everybody's moving all the time. And Mario and Luigi, they're wearing work boots. They're fairly easy to do, at least from a sonic standpoint. However, they move wildly fast. They're unpredictable. Humans kind of telegraph their moves. Animated characters just move on the drop of a dime. And you had the Yoshi character, which they were very interested in creating a sound for him that was uniquely Yoshi and would just sit in there. And we actually took a little bit back and forth to try to figure out um, what should he sound like and how to perform him. And I tried a few different things. I tried walking him in some shoes. I tried some other gloves, and his feet just looked like big puffy balls. So I actually ended up using boxing gloves, and I put a cloth down so you didn't really hear any grit or scratch when it was on a concrete surface. So actually, Yoshi in the end ended up being really easy for me because I'm a drummer and he's really consistent, and I would just and it was a feel thing. He's kind of bouncy, he's goofy. But the film is relentless in that there's constant music, there's constant sound effects. A lot of the video game sounds, obviously, are a big part of that. So finding how Foley fit in there was definitely a challenge because if every sound played at one time, your head might explode. It's a lot going on. So picking those moments that really lend to the story and finding our opportunities to kind of help tell it was a challenge on that film for sure.
And what can you share with us in terms of forthcoming projects that you might want to tell us about?
Well, that's the Skywalker thing that I can't really tell you about what I'm going to
There
work
you
on unless
go.
it's released. I will mention the season 2 of X-Men '97 is about to come out on Disney Plus, and I worked on both seasons of X-Men '97. It's 2D '90s style animation like the original show, and it was a ton of fun to work on, and super well received. And Foley, everybody. I mean, it's a busy show for everybody, but that's the latest thing that's about to come out. Um, and I mean, it's going to be a busy year. Early in the year, I had The Punisher come out on Disney Plus. It's a standalone hour-long episode that was fun to work on because honestly, I don't always get to work on things that are that violent and sort of over the top. And for Foley, that's fun. If we, you know, doing weapons, doing fight scenes, I wouldn't maybe want to do it every day, but mixing up, animated films and live action stuff of all types is part of what makes the job fun and interesting.
That's a great segue into you mentioned violence, and now I'm thinking of the classic Shaw Brothers kung fu movies and 70s kung fu films of
Sure.
we'd call them sound effects, but I guess at the end of the day it's Foley. It's sound recorded in the studio to make those punishing sounds. And last night I watched The Furious at the theatre, and just getting those
Nice.
sounds have convinced the audience to make them really wince and think, oh,
Right.
to
Yeah.
feel the pain that actually isn't there, but we really feel the pain. What sort of
Oh,
secrets
absolutely.
in the arts can you share with us? How do you guys make us convinced that that person just got throttled on the screen?
It's again like with body impacts and stuff. You could put mics close and hit yourself, and they did a lot of that in Fight Club. I was told, and I was also told they ended up with a lot of bruises. But using heavy cloth, using I use things like again boxing gloves, sparring pads, that type of thing. Baseball mitts to try to fatten up the sound is a big part of it when it comes to punches. We don't necessarily get asked to do a lot of like the big punches and stuff anymore. Some of it's a time constraint, but the other side is they've spent decades recording and building these things, and they can be so over the top that not that we can't create or provide that, but they sort of already have that resource. It's some of the other things, grabbing and blocking, and the other kind of grappling things that happen in fights that Foley contributes to. Obviously, the feet are a big part. When I worked on a film called The Raid 2,
Oh,
which yeah, and that I did that by myself. I was the only
classic.
Foley artist on it, and I was beat at the end of every day because it was just fight scenes that went on for 10 minutes, and you can see their feet, and they're very well choreographed. And sometimes as a Foley artist, when I don't see their feet, I like because I can tell that story myself. But when you see them, you really have to nail them. And then we also get to do fun visceral stuff, blood and gore and bone breaks, and we use, I mean, it's the kind of thing that people joke that Foley artists, use coconut shells.
Mhm.
Well, we actually do to a degree, and when it comes to violent stuff and visceral stuff, we do use chamois, which are what you use to dry a car. They're actually like a goat skin, and we use those for a lot of liquid stuff. We use hair gel, um, pasta, celery, all of those things that you like joke about us using, we use. And again, I don't get to do enough. I'd love to do like some zombie films or some horror films because that stuff's so fun for Foley. But yeah, I mean, we like to get a little violent when we can.
Absolutely. Why not? And talking of just movies in general, what can you share with us some of your favorite films throughout the years for whatever reason you love them? Um, tell us about some of those titles.
Films I worked on.
Anything that either you've worked on or stuff that you've really
Yeah,
enjoyed, or
yeah,
just
yeah,
go-to classics of that.
sure. Yeah. Well, as far as stuff I've worked on, I mean, boy, I got lucky early on that I worked on J.J. Abrams' Super 8, and Ben Burt was the sound designer on that.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that was fun. As much as we learn from other Foley artists, from great mixers, sound designers, people that have been in the business that have invented this language, that exposure, whether it's Ben Burt, Randy Tom, Gary
Mhm.
Rydstrom, I mean, that's informed a lot of what I do as a Foley artist and how I approach sound. Um, the favorite things I worked on the last couple of years, Andor is a brilliant show, brilliant
Fantastic series.
story, and some of my best work is in Andor season two. They just let us go off. They let
Mhm.
us be gritty and wet and depressing. I mean, there's a lot of that in there. So that was fun. And then F1 was amazing because I got to work with a great Foley artist from Finland named Heikki Kosi on that, as well as Shelley Roden, who was at Skywalker. So it was a great team. And we did a lot of the traditional stuff, all the feed, and he handles his deck of cards as kind of a reoccurring element. But like doing the pit stops was wild, because they're fast, they're precise, they have to sound big and heavy. We did a lot of car stuff when they're crashing. Sonny keeps breaking the front wing off of his car on purpose, an accident. So we had to keep doing that over and over. They remove it, they replace it with a new one. Flat tires, gravel spraying everywhere. It was just not our traditional Foley, which was a lot of fun. So, and those films both sounded great
Mhm.
in the theater, or sounded great, at least on my home theater. But now, as far as films I love. I grew up child of the '80s, so Star Wars films, Raiders of the Lost Ark,
Mhm.
John Hughes films, like 16 Candles and stuff. Those were I loved as a kid. Um, and then as I got more, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Spinal Tap, Airplane,
Right.
those are some of the things I still go back to those things. And then I started to get into, film a little more seriously, in high school, renting, everything. And it's, a lot of the obvious stuff. Everybody probably mentions The Conversation and Chinatown and Godfather and Taxi Driver and, Apocalypse Now. I
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm.
those are Jaws. Big, big part of my, love of films. And, in the last 30 years since I've been an adult, I love all the Tarantino films.
Mhm.
I just rewatched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood last night, actually, and I love that. I think Gary Hecker did the Foley on it, and the film sounds fantastic. David Fincher films, I love all of those. All of the Wes Anderson films.
Mhm.
Um, I like movies. You know, I like gritty. I like, dark stuff. Partially because it's very different than what I work on. We work on a lot of Pixar, Marvel, Disney, which I also enjoy. I try to watch everything I work on afterwards just to try to see how it plays out. Um, last year was a great year for film. I mean,
Mhm.
Sinners
Yeah.
and One Battle. One Battle is one of my favorites. And I just went and saw Obsession in the theater last week, and I'm very uh, inspired by like what the Gen Z are doing, but also that they got people into the movie theater.
Mhm.
The theater was packed. Everybody was 15, 20 years younger than me. A lot of female audience,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it made sense to me like why that film is doing well. It's a lot of fun. I would love to do more indie A24, Blumhouse, neon type stuff. It doesn't always kind of fit with Skywalker's
Mhm. Mhm.
schedules and likely budgets, but yeah, I mean, I love movies, 100%.
Fantastic. Well, honestly, it's been such a pleasure talking to you, and we've hopefully learnt a lot more about the art of Foley and how it's so integral to good filmmaking. We look forward to your future projects, and thank you once again for speaking with us.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. Again, I've been asked to do some of these before, and I never thought of Foley as being a front-facing sort of thing. I liked that it was out of sight, out of mind, because I sort of feel like film in general is all smoke and mirrors, and I like keeping it that way. But people want to see how films are made. They want to learn what these processes are. So. I'm willing to, pass along
Well,
that information,
we
to the
really
people who want
appreciate
to
it.
hear it.
It's
Yeah,
like the
thank you.
whole Penn and Teller thing. You see a crazy magic trick, but once in a blue moon, just to find out how it was done, uh, is even more spellbinding. And then they blow your mind again by saying, "Well, we've almost taught you everything, but not quite everything."
Right,
So,
exactly.
thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me for sure.